Willie Nelson isn't just a country legend. He's a living testament to pain turned into poetry and survival turned into song. A man who took the long, hard road and kept walking when it might have been easier to lie down and let the night swallow him whole. He was born in Abbott, Texas, small-town dust and big-sky loneliness, and raised by kind but struggling grandparents after both parents drifted away like smoke, present somewhere out there in the world, but never where a child needed them to be. That kind of absence can echo louder than any slammed door, and Willie learned early that silence could be louder than love. So he picked up a guitar and started filling the room with a voice that understood both hurt and hope. As a boy, he picked cotton under a punishing sun until his knuckles burned and his fingers blistered, sang gospel on Sundays in a church where each hymn felt like a handrail, and played in bars before most kids learned long division, his small frame wrapped around an instrument that became a lifeline. Every chord was a breath, every stage a plea for connection, every lyric a way to say, "I'm still here," to a world that had too often looked the other way. Nashville didn't open its arms when he came knocking. Producers called his voice too rough, his phrasing too strange, his look too plain for rhinestone radio. And the town's doors turned into mirrors that showed him who he wasn't supposed to be. But even as gatekeepers waved him past, his words slipped under and took root in other throats. Crazy, aching and immortal. Funny how time slips away, a knife hidden in velvet. Pretty paper, a snapshot of dignity on a cold sidewalk. Glory went to the voices that carried those songs to jukebox heaven, while the songwriter walked back to work, invisible in the crowd, paid in applause he couldn't claim. At his lowest, he stepped into the middle of a road at night, as cars hissed past like he didn't exist, and instead of a life flashing before his eyes, there was only quiet, the kind that makes a decision for you. He got up, dusted off the moment, went back inside and kept breathing in time with the music, because the alternative was a silence he already knew too well. When the industry's mold wouldn't fit, he quit trying to fit it and moved where the air was different, finding freedom in Austin's unruly to be anything but himself, braids and bandana, and a battered guitar named Trigger that wore its scars the way he wore his, not as decoration, but as evidence. Fans who felt shoved aside by slick perfection heard themselves in the grain of his voice. He was both refuge and revolution, a reminder that you don't have to shine to be seen if you're willing to be real. But the spotlight didn't spare the private costs. A marriage cracked open by a hospital bill and the truth folded inside it. A discovery that left a quiet crater no apology could fill. A beloved ranch burned. Dreams turned to a line of smoke against the sky. And then the hammer blow of the IRS, millions owed, rooms emptied of memory, possessions tagged and tallied, dignity set on the curb. He answered the only way he knew how, with songs. He recorded the IRS tapes and sold his memories back to the people who had lived inside them, rebuilding not just finances but trust, one listener at a time. Proof that a community can be a safety net if you've spent years singing it into existence. The ledger of grief cut even deeper in the seasons that followed. The shattering loss of his son Billy, a silence that even music could only circle. The death of Paul English, the drummer, fixer, and brother-in-arms who kept time and kept the family together. A man who collected debts, steadied tempers, and understood that rhythm isn't only a sound, but a promise. The passing of his sister Bobby, first duet partner and keeper of childhood's bridge, whose piano had been a lighthouse in every storm since they were small. And, in time, the goodbyes to old friends and highwaymen, fellow riders whose laughter once filled bus aisles and dressing rooms, and who now lived only in the pause before Willie's count-in. That moment where memory tightens the throat and the song agrees to carry the weight. Meanwhile, his body demanded concessions you can't negotiate with forever. Decades of smoke traded for breath. A stem cell turned to steady, fragile lungs. A shift from fire to edibles. A slower gait that never once slowed the reason he walked. He canceled shows when he had to, came back when he could, because purpose outweighed pain, and the stage is a kind of medicine when you've spent a lifetime learning how to dose it. Somewhere along, you've hummed at red lights, but the most priceless thing there is family, the sound of Lucas and Amy at his side as the songs become conversations between generations, questions asked in harmony and answered in the turn of a phrase. Trigger, the scarred guitar that's followed him through bar rooms, buses, courthouse steps, and curtain calls, still rings with that unmistakable grain, a little smoke, a little cedar, and a lot of truth. Its battered top, a topographic map of the life it's scored. A reminder that music is a contact sport, and that time leaves fingerprints on everything it loves. Today, when Willie steps under the lights, audiences see a legend, but the music carries ghosts. A father's ache for the child he can't hug, a sister's harmony curled inside the spaces he leaves, a drummer's count-in felt in the bones more than heard in the ears, friends who rode the same endless highway and now ride shotgun in memory. He doesn't wail, doesn't posture. He turns grief into melody, raises a prayer through chords, and lets the pauses say as much as the words, confident that silence, handled carefully, can heal too. That's why he endures, because he transformed abandonment into belonging for millions of strangers, because he showed that ruin can be repaid in songs, because he taught us that scars can sing, and that a voice frayed by weather can still be a compass. He made it okay to be the person the world said wouldn't sell, by proving that truth is the only brand that never goes out of style. He reminded the business that real isn't a genre, it's a promise. And he kept it, album after album, night after night, town after town. He learned to carry fame lightly and grief honestly, to crack jokes at the edge of a funeral, to pass a joint and a kind word with the same easy grace, to forgive himself in public without pretending the lesson didn't cost him. He built stages where misfits felt central, where broken hearts could clap on beat and feel repaired for 3 minutes at a time, where farmers and bankers and dreamers and drifters could share a chorus without checking their politics or their pay stubs at the door. He did what the best artists do. He made a big, noisy country feel like one small room. And when the cameras caught him next to pop supernovas or press, a way to get from heartache to laughter without getting lost in the middle. And if his voice has ever steadied your hands at 2 in the morning or softened a long night behind the wheel, if On the Road Again ever felt like a promise instead of a cliché, consider this moment a small salute. Like the video, share the story, and leave in the comments the one Willie lyric that carried you when nothing else would. Remember that behind the braids and the bandana and the easy smile is a boy who learned to make friends with silence, and a man who kept choosing honesty over polish, mercy over pride, laughter over bitterness, music over everything. Remember that he is still here, not because time forgot to tap him on the shoulder, but because he found a way to face it with open hands. Remember that some legends write history, but Willie Nelson wrote its soundtrack. And in doing so, he gave the rest of us a place to set our feelings down when they were too heavy to carry alone. The lights go down, the crowd breathes in, the band counts softly, and the guitar answers with that familiar grain. It's not just another show. It's a conversation with ghosts and a love letter to the living. He leans into the mic, the room leans forward, and for a while the world feels simple again. The road is long, the bus is warm, the night is friendly, and the song, somehow, impossibly, beautifully, is still on the road again.